I'm glad to see some faces that I know from last time, and I also see some faces that I didn't see last time. So always glad to come back to a same place and also see new faces. Now, the message that I have is a very simple message. But you know, in simplicity, sometimes things are hard to be understood, because we are so used to think that things are complicated. Yes, there are complex things, not complicated things. But everything in reality works at the bottom very simple. And so, since we are just starting, like in medicine, numbering the leaves of a tree, we will never get to the root of the tree. And in my experiences for 22 years now in my practice, I came to, by God's help, to realize the root of the problem. And one basic root of the problem is relationships. Health and relationships. What do you think? In what relationship are they? Do they come together, or are they separated from it? So in this seminar we will see how one determines the other, because something in our life is most important that we miss generally to see it. So starting with the symptoms of a body, you are faced with the question, where do these things appear? Disease has many faces. It comes in all forms of all our 5 senses. So it's not something that you can miss, or can you? In the moment it's there, you feel it, you might smell it, you might taste it. It might be very, very, how can I say, strongly emphasizing that something is wrong. Yeah? And so you need to understand that message of the body. There is no stronger message than the disease or the things that are bringing to us pain and all the discomforts. So not being able to know where disease is coming from is something that we should change in our life. And this was my experience, that I did not know. I did not know when a patient comes to me with one of these symptoms, where do I start? Just recently I got a patient in my practice. She's also 62 years old, and she got suddenly a infection of her left tonsil, and also the lymph nodes were big, growing, and she also had the lymph nodes in her right inguinal area. So that fits very well with the left side and the right side of the body. And now she goes to the doctor, and the doctor faces and sees the symptom and the changes, but where do they come from? Can we pinpoint things, or can we not? Because the doctors, the first one who saw her, thought they may take a sample of the lymph nodes from the inguinal area, but that's secondary to the lymph nodes in the neck. But if you look a little bit even closer, then you see that the lymph nodes in the neck are not the beginning of the things, but it's the tonsil where the tumor resides. Now, when you have a certain experience, you know from the beginning if that tumor is malignant or non-malignant. Even when you see it and you touch it, as a physician, you know that's something that is just because of an infection or it's a malignant tumor. You don't not even take a sample. They take the biopsy for the purpose of knowing exactly what it is, because they say then we have a special therapy for this special tumor. So the lady has a malignant tumor, and the question is, why? Why does it come on the left tonsil? And why does it go into the right side of her body? And if we have no understanding of the human way to function, how can we give an answer? Now, I'm very glad that since I came to understand the body's language, I can very precisely say why she has the tumor. Now, in medical terms, you will say that is an assumption. How can he know from where that tumor arises? Now, it's very simple. If you once know how the body functions, then you understand its message. And you can say it exactly. That's the problem, that's the cause. And that needs to be removed. Besides the therapy, I have no problem to intervene physically, but if we intervene physically and do not solve the cause of that tumor, our battle will be lost in the end. So she never had something before. She said she was always healthy, and she is my age, and so there must be something that causes that tumor. And since I like to start simple, let's look to what could the body tell us when he brings the disease. What is his message? Because not understanding your own body may be not very smart to know. So our body speaks in different forms, but he always speaks generally when we have something that we miss. He also speaks when something is too much. He also speaks when he's lesioned, when we have an accident, when we cut ourselves. Those are all things when the body speaks. And his signals are ever by accident or no accident. I mean, can this tumor arise by chance? Yes or no? Now, according to medicine, yes. According to the doctors, they would tell it's bad luck. Yeah? That's how medical people see things, because they are confused what the body tells us when we are sick. So the first lesson that I hope we learn tonight is our body cannot lie. It's a computer program. And when you write something the wrong way and spell it the wrong way on your computer, who is right, the computer or you? The computer is always right. Yeah, you might say no, it's not right, but because he cannot make mistakes. You see, in a physical element, there is no capacity for mistakes. There's no capacity for mistakes. Only in a thought process there is capacity for mistakes. But in a physical element, there is never a capacity for mistakes. That's why when the body comes and speaks, he does not speak by accident. There must be a specific cause why he comes. When he does not speak, when it's all good, then we are very glad, and we never need to do something when we feel good, because well-being is the state in which we were made to function, never have any injury or affection. So we understand the body's language when we are hungry. We understand it when we are thirsty. We understand when we are tired, especially me today. Yes, I lay down a little bit and I had nightmares. I mean, not nightmares, but I never snore, but I woke up snoring myself since of a little bit of time change. Yeah, it's in Germany now 9 o'clock in the morning, so it's time to wake up. But when you don't sleep the whole night, then it might be that you fall asleep in the morning. So the tiredness is a clear message. Then we have shortness of breath, the lack of oxygen. I was in Peru at the beginning of the year, and I was doing meetings in Cusco, which is 3,300 meters above sea level. And when you come out of the airplane, you wonder, why do you feel bad? Yeah? And then you want to walk fast, like you are used to walk fast, and it doesn't work. And if you have to walk up steps, it is even, yeah, you're like an old man. You know, you just need to stop. And the people who were with me said, yes, stop. So take you take your time. So it's lack of oxygen because the pressure is not enough. So freezing, a lack of warmth that we have in Germany and in Europe, and also when it's too warm, that's something that's good. I enjoyed yesterday. I was having a longer stopover in Singapore, so I went walking a little bit outside, and I was sweating because it was warm and a little bit humid. So, but when we have inflammation, pain, tumors, cancer, what does the body tell us? So, are the body's reaction or the body's reaction intentional or not intentional? They're all intentional. The signals are all intentional, and are they for saving life or for destroying life? It's saving life. Yeah? So the negative message comes to save life. When we die of hunger, do we die of hunger or of lack of food? Yeah, we die for lack of food, not for hunger. But we understand hunger. That's why people don't die on this or on this or this. People die on disease. Most people die between 40 and 60 years old. And this lady's life is also in danger through her cancer tumor, which has already metastasis. And the question is, can she understand why? You see, all of these things until disease are very clear for any one of us. And there's no misunderstanding of the body's language. But when it comes to the disease, which is the most plain and the most clear message, we are not knowing it. That's why we die on disease. Actually, we don't die on disease. We die on the lack of what the disease wants to show us. Yeah? So we don't die on the disease itself, because disease is just a message that something is not enough or fitting to the body. So knowing this, one great mistakes or one great misunderstanding of our body will always lead to death, sooner or later. So if you have any body symptoms, would it be good that you can interpret them correctly? Yes or no? Would be very good. So, let's see. The most unknown being is the human being. That is, most of us don't know themselves. Most of us don't know, of how does it come that I have left side lymph nodes and on the neck and right side in my body the lymph nodes. How does it work? So we are very, very ignorant of our own being. We might know what war is in Iran or in Russia or wherever, but ourselves to know is something that is not in our even attention, isn't it? Yeah, we may speak a lot about health in certain places, but about ourselves, to understand health, it's very lack. And so I was in 22 years ago, and I'm glad that I did not remain like that. So how did I proceed to come to the conclusions that I have today? I took the patient and his age, and you put him in the timeline, and in the timeline, if he's 50, or like this lady is 62, and you put all the physical affection on one side. So headache or dizziness, neck tension, tinnitus, which ear it appears. You take them all and put them in a timeline. When did they start? How they develop? Which place? Then you take all the surgical interventions that a person had. Then you take, when it's a woman, also the abortions or miscarriages. So everything the physical body has to tell you, you put in a timeline on one side. And then on the other side, I put the mental history, the thoughts history. And doing that, I saw that relationships, the first relationship that matters for the child is between the father and the mother. So that's most important to understand. And the relationship with mother, with father, spouse, children, then events in your life, marriage, divorce, death of loved ones. You take all that and put them also besides the physical affections, you put the spiritual things. Employment situations, that what people do, and of course special events like traumas and all those things, you put them there, and after a while, what would you see? And that would see how many of us, if we would compare the two, what would we see? What comes always first? Right? This or this? The red or the black? It's always the red. And that is an amazing thing, is it? That the event, the thing here comes before the physical reaction. And if you once know it, then when you have the physical reaction, where do you go? Where do you go? You go here. But this is not known in medicine. And it's not even very, and it's hard to approach, especially in male. Yes? I mean, women are like they are, more open to understand things. But if I have male patients, they have a hard time even thinking that something could be from this. I just had a patient, he's 58 years old, and he has a ringing in his ear, on the right side of his ear, since 1994 or 6th, I can't remember exactly. And now he comes because in the last time this ringing got stronger. Yes, and then you go to the doctor, he thinks he has something to stop the ringing. Just answered an email in the car coming here from a lady who wrote to me because she's in a clinic that is close to my practice. That's an antidepressant clinic for addictions and others. And she said since she's in the clinic, they gave her a medication, and now the tinnitus started to explode. And so she wants to see me. Now, since her email came while I always was just a few days ago, I could not answer. But I offered her a phone counseling if she wants, because when I go back on the 1st of April, it might have been too long for her to wait. However, if I would not know where it comes from, how could I deal with it? Why did her tinnitus get stronger when she took a certain medication? And why this gentleman, and this is the nice story, because I don't take just the things that are in my field as an ENT. I go and ask, what is else in your body? And now he tells me that recently he replaced his left knee. So, you got it? Right tinnitus for 30 years, and now he replaced his left knee. And now he replacing the left knee, he didn't solve the problem. Now the tinnitus gets stronger automatically, because the cause is not resolved when you change your knee, or is it? When you take out the tumor, when you take out the tonsil. Now the tinnitus you cannot stop because it's just in the brain and you cannot cut it out. Because they did some experiments with people who did not suffer the tinnitus anymore, and then they destroyed the cochlea, that is the place where we hear, and the tinnitus is still there. And then they cut the hearing nerve, and it's still there, the tinnitus, because it's just in the cortex. It's not in the ear. It's not in the cochlea, it's not in the nerve. It's just in the cortex, a change of chemistry that we perceive as a tone. Or just, yet, was it, I'm 2 days already on my way, but just in the last day, before I came, there came a gentleman, and he's 87, and he says, since I don't know exactly how much time, but just recently, he says, I have some noise in my left ear, and it's like singing. I said, it's a real song, and he says, yes, it's like singing. And I remember my mother-in-law had the same thing. She had singing in her left ear. And now I look to the man, he's 87. Now, when you're 58, you might have a chance to think. When you're 87, it's gone. And I said, and before I asked him, he said, my wife died 2 weeks ago. So is there a connection between the death of his wife and the singing in his left ear? Yes or no? 100%. But we would never trace that back. We would never see that. Because medicine ignores the human way to think. It has no structure for that. It is not important. Now, I was last weekend in Norway, in a place, I don't know, 2-3 hours from Oslo, and there were also children in audience, and I always like to have children when they are about between 8 and 12 years. It's very nice to talk to them because children are very, they say what they think, you know? I mean, sometimes they also try to tell you what you expect them to say, yeah? And then I got this young boy, 11 years old, and I asked him, how much emphasis would you put when you are sick on the way you think? I mean, it's a hard question for an 11-year-old, but they understand it. What was his answer? You know it. Much or less? He says little. Little. So the child, is that what the parents teach him? What the parents think? So he says, my health depends little from what I think. Little from what I think. And this is the general thing. People do not have the understanding what are thoughts and what's their power and action in the body. So thoughts and events in life, yes, we may tell that they have a spiritual or psychical effect. So you go to the psychologist. But to see the event or the reflection in the body in a real physical manifestation is very hard to grasp. So, when I saw this, and meanwhile I have seen it in at least 20,000 of patients, and you see it again and again, and every one of us could see it if you would just do it. Whenever you have a chance in your life, or you have a family member or anything, and you would explore the case, you would find the same thing that I found. Because it's evident. You just need to ask. Now, it's easier when you have a female because they tell you more often. When you ask a man, and I asked this man, 58 years old, with his ring in the ear on the right side and replacing his knee just recently, and now the ringing got stronger, if he has some issues in the way he thinks, what was his answer? Can I get the water? I thought it was for me, yes? So when I asked him if he has some issue in his life, could you tell me? No, of course not. What issue have men in life except their spouses? Or, yeah? Now, his history was very simple. His father died a few years before his tinnitus appears. And since he did not understand the message of the body in the tinnitus, the arthrosis in his left knee started. And over years, the knee got so damaged that he needed to replace it. Would he ever think it's his own thoughts that destroy his knee? Would he think that? No, he would not think it. Because if he would think it, he would not go to the surgeons, but he might maybe search a psychologist to say, what do I think that I destroy my knee? Yeah? He would just go and ask himself, what is the problem? Where is it? But he was not at all open to understand that his own thoughts are making him his noise in the ear and his damaging his left knee. Because the only way, or the only one who thinks for yourself, for your body, is you. So who can change that? Only you can change it. So there's no one else that can do it. And this is the difficulty in transmitting the message, because of a pre-information in which we lower the emphasis on thinking. And because of this not known function, we are very, how can I say, in ignorance. Now, it's very simple. The story of the lady who got the cancer on the left tonsil. Her husband died in November last year. And her mother died in 2003. They are both on the left side of the brain. We will explain that maybe tomorrow or on Sunday, how those things work. Because we have two brains, they are separated at the beginning. And so you have only the, that's why we have this one-sided effect. Yeah, that the right knee has no arthrosis, just the left knee, even though you walk with both of them. Yes? So why do we have dysfunctions in one side of the body and the other not? Well, it's very clear, because the brains where the function starts are separated. You have the left side and the right side, and function starts always from here, so then you know, okay, where does it go, if you know the nervous system. So she has the death of her mother, and now the death of her husband, and now through the death of her husband, the death of the mother revives even stronger. And now she is in a trap in her mind, and after so many years mourning for her mother, now she mourns for her husband, and those things now arise in the tumor. It's not a conscious action. It's not something that she wants, because when I told her that she needs to change the way she thinks, she says, how shall I do that? How shall I not miss my mother and my husband? So things are very close together, and since we don't know how the thought process is and why does he make disease, we can never put things correctly together. So, seeing that this is always the case, if someone comes to me and says, I have this and this thing, where do I go with my questions? You go and ask what happened. Because without happening something, you cannot have anything in your body. Of course, you can be hit, but that's also when something happens. But if you have no physical injury, there must be something in which it is the way you think that injures your own body. Now, if disease is the result of our own thinking, is it not a tragedy that we don't pay attention to it? Yes or no? If we are the one that destroy themselves, they destroy their knee. Yes, medicine has developed all kinds of replacement tools, yeah? But would it not be better to avoid these things? Now, you cannot have an arthrosis or a destruction of your knee at the age of 58 or even 57, except with a long-term load in your mind. You cannot have cancer just from a few weeks suffering. It must be a long-term time that is in the mind that makes that. So understanding it, of course, I was challenged to know, how does it work? How does it work? But the first thing that I came to understand is that man does not live just by oxygen, or by water, or by food, or by sleep, or by sunshine, or by warmth. Those are all basic needs that we have, but they don't make life life. What makes life enjoyable is relationships. Why? What's the cause of relationships? Do we have them just for fun, or is there a need behind our relationships? Is there a need behind it or not? Yes, there is a need behind it. And what is this need? It's love. So, in my first 2.5 years in my practice, where I started to compare the physical and the mental, I came to see that all my patients had problem in their relationships. And so I called the cause of their disease a lack of love. So you come with an ear infection, and what do you have? Lack of love. You come with a kidney stone, what do you have? A lack of love. You come with a cancer, what do you have? Lack of love. That was amazing to see, is it? So I got this, I said, it's all lack of love, because it's all problems in the relationships. Now, is that hard? Is that easy to tell the people or not? Oh, when a young man, I give this example because it shows that things are, we cannot take them separately. You know, when you have an infection in your mouth or on the parotid, you might also have an infection in your body elsewhere. So this young man had two parotid swelling. The right side was less, the left side was stronger. And since I just don't look only here, he also had an ingrown nail on both thumbs of his legs. So the left side is stronger, the ingrown nail on the right side is also stronger. The right side of the parotid is less swollen, and the ingrown nail on the left side is also less ingrown. Is there a clear relationship? Yes, there is. Yeah, if you understand the human body, there is. And I just, I was at the beginning, back then, when I a little bit overwhelmed this young man, I said, all this comes because of the way you think. But it's the way he thinks according to his parents, because he has a brain from his mother and the father, and that's why it's separate through whom he has more issues. It's just a reflection in your body perfectly. Could he understand it? I think he was 17 or 19 years old, I can't remember. Could he understand it? Of course not. 2 weeks before, I was in Romania, or 3, I don't know. And there I also have a place that I think it's the 3rd or 4th years where I do the meetings, usually after I come from Australia. Yeah? But this time it is at the beginning of March. And last year there was a family with their daughter that had an ingrown thumb. And the physician suggested to make the surgery and remove the whole nail and then cut away that part where the nails grows in, so that it should, when it grows again, grow straight. Yeah, that's how we try to fix nature. And I've done these surgeries while I was a student, and it's a very painful thing. Not a surgery, because then you are anesthetized, but after it takes months until that pain heals, and then the nail will grow again the back way. Or it goes somewhere else in the body when we stop somewhere the alarming system. And they came to me, the parents, at these meetings, and said, we did not do the surgery. You counseled us what to do, and the nail healed by itself. Because when the cause is taken away, the result is also taken away. But an ingrown nail, you cannot do it except by the way you think, because we will see the human being, it must start at the starting point, and that is in our head. There is the starting point of everything I speak, everything I move, everything I do. It starts here. There's no other starting point except there. So I could tell you many, many stories. It's always the same. It's relationships. And when relationships are something that is in our life from the beginning, there is never a time when we are not in relationship, because there's never a time where love can not be present. You see, you cannot have water for a while, you can have no sleep for a while, you can have no food for a while, and you won't die. But love is something that needs to be permanently, without interruption, and we will see later how that works in our lives. That's why relationships must be present from the beginning of our lives. There is at no time in our lives a time in which you have and are not in a relationship. Your mother might be dead for long, but in your head she's still alive. Yeah, she might die 20 years ago or 30 years ago, she's still there. So then when I saw that relationships are so important, and they determine not only the external happiness, but also the physical function of the body, of course I asked myself, what is love for the human life? And the result is, it's the fuel of life. There are always two elements that you need to work, and love is the element that puts us into work, and physical things just sustain the working. But love is the fuel of life. It is that what determines life. That's why also the disease is so strong. Because why would you mourn your mother or your spouse? Why? Why would that bring you into a deep depression if it's not the fuel of life? Have you ever been depressed because you didn't have enough food? It's not possible. Yeah? Because depression only comes because the fuel of life is missing. So this was my greatest, so to say, acknowledgement that something in our life is determining life, and that is love or information. And exactly this, when you go to the doctor, is ignored. But there is no disease, there's no affection that does not come from this thing when you have not another injury, as we will see. So let's look to that what I call the law of life. There is, the human being is conditional. Our life is not unconditional. conditions of life needs to be fulfilled. And if all needs are fulfilled, the result is normal function and health. That would be the result. We would feel good when we have eaten good, when we have rested. So when the needs are not fulfilled, then the body starts to give its signals. And it's on both sides, too much or too less. Yeah? So, and when we get the signals, we need to understand them so that it doesn't go further into death, where there is no changing anymore. So this is the tolerance time in which we can act to get back inside to fulfill the needs that are required, that are not by choice. So how many needs do we have? And we all know that we have physical needs, and those are clear for us. We have no question about that because they're tangible, we see them, and our body will react when there is too much or too less for them. With the warmth, the freezing, or the sweating, that's very simple to understand. So we will not go further here when we sweat to say, okay, we need to sweat more. And we will not go further here when we are freezing, but we will do something because the body pushes us to do it. And we know what to do. When we're hungry, we eat. We don't take medication. When we're thirsty, we drink. When we're tired, we sleep. When we freeze, we dress. When we're sweating, we undress or make cooling systems. Yeah? So you know what to do. But when you're sick, you don't know what to do, except drink some tea or this or that. But you don't know what is the cause. Isn't that bad or not? I mean, we are humans. We should know it. We have reason. There should be something more clear than that for us than just this. So if I would have never asked people about the need of love, I would have never known it, because how many people go through medical school, to any medical school, if it's nursing or something, and you are taught that the human being needs love? It's just not there. There's no school for love, there's no school for relationships. Everything is just about the physical elements, but the spiritual are almost completely missing. And this is why people die on disease, why people do not know why. And it might be intentional for those who are teaching us to not teaching it to us. But since we have given reason, we could ask ourselves and could study it for ourselves. So, do we need love? Yes or no? Yes. Why would we not accept that disease is the result of missing it? Why would that not be something like when I'm hungry, I need to eat. And when I'm thirsty, I need to drink. And when I'm sick, I need some way of thinking lovingly so that my body gets what he needs. Why would that be not so natural like the other things? Why? So it's a great tragedy that this thing is so unknown. And then when you even try to convey it and teach it to people, since it's so unknown, they put it under question. And then they say, oh, it cannot be only that. But in this 22 years since I started to talk to my patients, and I go wherever God calls me to go, I did not find another cause for disease except the way we think. And thoughts are just about spiritual things. Now, of course, I need to think when I go eating or drinking, but those thoughts do not affect the body negatively. But when your partner dies or when something happens in one's life, that is a terrible thing. So, questions, what are thoughts? I believe it's very important because relationships are not physical. They may have physical effects, but relationships are just in the mind. They're just in our thoughts. So the fuel of life can be only in our thoughts. Can only be the information that we, in our thoughts, work with. So thoughts are informations, and those are always bound to humans, or no, to a person, better to say. So where do our thoughts come from? How do we build them? Would be a good thing, and especially where do they start? And what is their power? How much can they do? There is nothing that a thought cannot do. Disease is just the effect of our thoughts. And the failure of medicine is just the effect that there is no medicine against the thought. Understand? The thought is so powerful because it has in it the fuel of life, or the fuel of death, so to say. And whenever we try to give a treatment, we actually fight one's thinking. Yeah, we remove the knee. What do we did? Did we solve anything? Yes, now he can walk a little bit, but now the noise comes more, and then with the time it goes to somewhere else because he never changes the input. Why he loses or he misses his father, which is even unconscious to him. So there is no medicine against our way to think. If we don't understand it, the medicine will lose the battle because the thought is stronger than anything else. And if we would understand that, we would put the emphasis on what is the strongest and not on what antioxidant and anti to take, because people are very, how can I say, well educated in these things, are they? Yeah? So you know this makes this and this makes that. A lady wrote to me yesterday, or was it today? Who knows? Because I'm all mixed up which day I have. Do you care about the radiations? You know, pardon? Not the chemtrails. The 5G or the other things, and no, not much. It was about the deodorant, the heavy metals for the deos. So I said I don't care about that, because we care about the deodorant, yeah, or the perfume. You cannot put on your skin, it's only on your hair, so you protect yourself. Because the skin takes in the poison, and then you will get your problem. Yeah? So we are very, very aware. Last weekend in Norway, a gentleman asked me, he said, so when I sleep with my phone on my ear, will I not get cancer there? I said, how shall the phone do that? Radiation can destroy, but cannot build. Cancer is not destroying, cancer is building. How shall it happen? Yes, we can destroy, we can radiate, but then we destroy, we cut. But this is a growing. This is something that grows, that needs power, that needs to be conducted to grow. So our ignorance about how things work is sometimes very, very, very strong. But to tell you this, everything that we do is the result of our thoughts. everything that you see outside in this room or outside is the effect of thinking. So if that is so, then why do we ignore that which is the most powerful thing that puts the whole body into action? So what's their role in medicine and their role in health is, I believe, absolute. It's because everything is it. But in order to understand it, we need to know more the human structure. So which relationships are more poisonous or more dangerous in our lives? The most close the relationship, the most good or the most bad it can? Boo. So the mother relationship is the closest relationship that a human can have. A child to mother is the closest one. It's also that which is most affected. But we ignore it. We give then the child the autism diagnosis, but where does autism come from? Who makes it? How does it come into existence? All that we don't know because we ignore the relationship of the child to the mother. For which purpose? What purpose has the relationship to the mother? It's love need. You know, if you're 50 or 40 and your mother dies, and you now 20 years you mourn for your mother. Why do you mourn for your mother? Because she's not there to cook you or to wash your... No, it's just because you need mother. And I tell you, I have a patient, he's 87 now. And he's a nice guy. He has many issues. And he got a lot of surgeries in the nose, and he even made some plastics in his... And he was never accessible that it comes from his own thoughts. Never accessible. I mean, totally opposed. And I tried several times because he comes years now to me, and he sympathizes me even though I try to convince him that something is wrong in the way he thinks. And now he came just a few weeks ago, and I don't know how the things came about, but I never give up, you know. And when I have a patient, I would like to help him, even though I cannot. I have only a helping message. And I asked him, when did his mother die? And then he says, well, my mother died in 1964. I said, oh, that was my birth years. I was born in 1964. And then suddenly he tells me and says this. He says, you might find it interesting or not funny. I don't know how to say the word. You might find it strange. But the older I get, the more I think on my mom. And I said, I don't find it strange. I know it. It's from experience. The older you get, your mom gets alive. Why? Isn't that amazing? People are thinking when they get older more to their mother than in the middle time of their life. Maybe they're alone and they miss love. And mother's love is always the best love, yes? So this is when people die, they think they go to their mother. They even say it before they die. Because the connection to mother is so strong, and mother connection is very, it's the most affected, I would say. 95 of our diseases is something has to do with our mothers. That's why the relationship with our mother is, in many cases, the destiny of that person. Now, of course, the father plays also a role, but it's not so strong than mother, because we do not grow up in the father's womb. It's mother who is the most closest there. The father is also sometimes mostly absent from home, and when he's home, he enjoys life with the children. Mother is more the strict one, the educator one. That's why most people don't like so much mother, but they might like more the father. Yeah? Because fathers are relaxed. Life goes on even without this and without that. And with the mother, it does not work. So, and then of course, wife and husband, it's also a very dangerous relationship when it's not, we don't understand how things work. And then sister and brother, there are nice relationships. Sisters and brothers work mostly well until the parents pass away. When the parents pass away and there is something to be inherited, then the discussions arise. It's amazing how that works. Then you don't care if it's your brother or your sister, you want your rights. Isn't that amazing? So there is something that comes before the relationship. So why does the husband become the enemy of his wife, or otherwise? Why the child is its mother enemy, or the way other? What is that ruins our relationship? Because that what ruins our relationships ruins also our health. Yeah. So that's there. So all human problems are based on relationship. I didn't see something more than that. And it's from experience. It's not from theory. It's not from books. I see it every day in my practice. All problems are related to our relationships, because love is the need that we have. That's why we have to ask that question to us. And as at the beginning, when I saw this connection, I was, of course, not knowing all this. I came to understand three things we will study in this seminar. And there are at least three things that generally are ignored, that we don't know. And the first of all is the fundamental law of nature. We don't know how all things in nature work, what's the principle of functioning, how things are built together. That's why we don't know that, and ignoring that will also make us to not understand the law of relationships. Because there's also a law for relationships, is it? Or do they just function lawless? Is there a law for eating? Yes or no? Yes, there's a law where you have to put your watering. You don't put it to the ear. No? You put it in your mouth. That's a law. You have to put it where the place is made. And so that is why we don't understand the relationship law as well, because we haven't understood the foundational thing that is underneath. And then we don't know human nature and its needs. We don't know that the human nature lives by love. And we don't know and ignore its structure. If we would know the human being, we would say, okay, we know when he's sick what he misses. But since we're ignorant of that, we get into trouble. And then we don't know where love comes in. Where is the reservoir for love? You know, through the war we get a problem with our gas. I see that your Australians suffer as we suffer in Germany, because they raised up the price of the gasoline and the diesel especially, yeah, to, you know, in 1 week, 50 cents in euros, yeah. So there must be a reservoir where love comes in. There must be a place where relationships taking place. They cannot be in a non-defined place. Because if love is that what is the fuel of life, then, and it's by relationships, there must be a place where it all starts. There must be an initial point where thought processes, where relationship starts. And if we ignore that, then how can we ever govern ourselves if you don't know where they start? So all these three things, I hope we will get together in this seminar so that all of you may understand, if you want, yourself, because these are basic things that should be taught in every school, and everyone should know them very clear. And then the capacity to govern ourselves correctly would be fulfilled. Thank you very much for listening. I mean, usually I leave open for questions, just to not interrupt the message, but if someone has a question tonight that he needs to get rid of, we can handle it. Yes.
What happens, seeing in Australia or the Western world, their culture is individualism. What if the person is alone by himself? There's no one else.
There is no one like that, because you start with your mother.
I mean, if they passed away.
Yes, but and they can be passed away. We are individuals, that's clear. But individuality and relationships are not in contradiction. Yes, we enter into relationships as individuals. Yes, relationships do not melt or does not take away individuality. That's very important. You know, but in some religious ideas, yes, when you get married, you now have a boss. If you're a woman, yeah? Usually the women, they take over, then the fight starts, who is stronger. But now in marriage, you cannot be like you have been before. You know, your own individuality. Each one needs to form the other for himself. That's why things will not work so well. Yeah? So that's why that we are individuals is right. That we separate ourselves is a symptom. Yeah? People run away from their mother, run away from their husband, run away from their wife. Yes, there is a great tendency for isolation. Yeah? Isolation? Is that isolation? Yeah, where you are afraid. Oh, I would, but I can be hurt. And so you don't enter a relationship because you're afraid to not be hurt again. So there is a fear from relationships because we experience certain hurts, certain things in our life that did that. So isolation is a symptom also because of the social media. We believe we can satisfy our needs on the screen, yes, or on this how you call the virtual reality, yes, the 3D how do you call this, glasses, yes. So you put that on, and then you just live there and in your own world. Yes, that also leads to not having, because communication via the social media is not a real communication. It doesn't satisfy like you are, because it's more than just the information. It's the person that is involved in information. So, yes, there is a tendency, and people get more depressed and more lonely. But it's not that they have not a relationship. Even the relationship is the cause of their loneliness. Yes?
What about young children that have sickness, cancers, and all sorts of problems?
Yeah, so the question that why children get sick or why they have cancer is a question that always comes in every seminar. And it's very simple to understand when we know how things work. Nature gives us an answer. And I will give the answer. When we know the whole system, then all things are clear. That this is the cause why children get sick, why they have their autism or their behavior things, or even their physical diseases. Yeah. So because the way things work must be in all people the same. Now, since we believe, now let's put this question: who believes that relationships are conscious, and who believes that relationships are unconscious? Where is the connection of the relationships? In the conscious mind or in the subconscious mind? It's not in both. The connection is subconscious. You can be conscious of it, but your relationship with your mother starts when you are how conscious? Zero consciousness. Yeah? And the relationship starts there. Because relationships, the fuel of life, this is an unconscious connection. That's why might be a certain answer why we are ignoring it. Yes, because it functions like breathing unconsciously that we are in the relationships. Yes, we have also a conscious mind and we can handle their things, but the connection of our relationships happens unconsciously. That's why when someone looks to you, or maybe it's a close family member, says a word, you get angry without wanting it. It's not a conscious process. The starting point in our life is in the heart, and the heart is unconscious or subconscious. And it must be so. If not, we could not live. Yeah? Because consciously we were made to do things, but I cannot consciously think, now I move my left vocal cord and then my right, so that they fit together and make this word. That's not consciously functioning. The fuel of life, the functions are not conscious. You see with your eyes, but you don't know how you see. You hear, you talk, but you don't know how that works. And you don't need even. You just need to know what to say and what not. But when it comes to the matter of love, if we do not make that conscious so that we consciously can handle it, we cannot change anything. So relationships, the connecting point is unconscious. That's why it's so difficult. Yeah? Because most of us believe that relationships are conscious. They are not.
In the medical community,
Yes.
to me this is the concept so far. How widely is this believed in the medical community and science?
Well, it's there are certain people that come and put it in emphasis, but it's more on they call it the emotional level. Yes?
If you present to a hospital or a doctor or whatever, they'll always ask you, right?
Well, if
Your background, your heritage, all that sort of thing, and I understand all that now, but I've never been asked about relationship, love, and so on.
exactly.
So how widely is it accepted? Is that a better question? In the medical community.
It is not so accepted because we are not educated to do that. Behind our education is a company. And that company does not want us to be on our own. Yeah? So that's why if you want to sell something, persons need to know, oh, I need this in order to have this and this. So since thinking is a personal and individual thing, why would I tell you when I have something to sell that you should start changing your thoughts, then your diabetes disappears, your high blood pressure is gone, I remain poor. So that's a conflict. That's the
Asked in the psychological
Yes.
Like I was talking
Yeah.
before. Yes, those questions would be asked because there is a psyche in your subconscious and so on. But if you're talking about surgeons, doctors, or anything like that, I've never ever heard of those questions being asked.
That's why it's hard for them, because they're pre-educated in a certain way. And it's hard, but of course some of them may accept it or may go into it. But if you are trained for years, 6 years in school, then 5 years residency, to be put it on a certain road, yes. When I finished my medical school and I did residency and I started my practice, I had no idea about these things because I never was taught. But I saw that my people, I have no answers to their questions. And I said, what do? I just write prescriptions? Did I go to school to just say, your nose is bleeding, and now I just make a cauterization and then you're gone, and then it bleeds again, or now the bleeding you can stop, but what do you do with other things, that are there more dangerous? So I thank God that I did not stay with what I learned in school, but I said I need to know it more. And I'm glad that I know it, but I cannot help no one. I only have a helping message. But I can tell my patients, if you understand it and you put it into practice, then you will see the result. Your ingrown nail stops and will grow straight. Yes?
Does that mean in your clinic you have a relationship counselor as well?
I am doing the counseling. Yes. I do the normal medicine and addition to it, the counseling. And I'm more a counselor than, pardon? Than spreading medicine. Yes, I give that also. I have nothing against therapy. I have nothing against surgery. I sent this lady with the tumor to make a biopsy, to go to the clinic to find exactly the tumor. But I also gave her my book and I said, I'm here for counseling. When you have all the data, we speak together so that you can get rid of the thoughts that produces your cancer. And then you can know there's no danger anymore.